Hi boys and girls. Today for story time we're going to read a story about a hermit crab, the one you see here. And in this story, this hermit crab has grown far too big for the shell that he's in, so he's got to go searching for a new one, just like the hermit crab did in the other book that we read this week, A House for Hermit Crab. So we're going to see what kind of adventures this crab gets into as he's searching for his new home. And remember, a hermit crab is born with no shell. So from the time they're born until they grow up, they have to constantly be looking for empty sea snail shells to put on their backs as their home. Okay, the title of the story is called, Is This a House for Hermit Crab? The author who wrote the words is Megan McDonald, and the illustrator who drew the pictures is S.D. Schindler. Let's get started. Hermit crab was forever growing too big for the house on his back. It was time to find a new house. He crawled up out of the water, looking for something to hide in, where he could be safe from the prickle-pine fish. He stepped along the shore by the sea in the sand. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. That's the sound it makes whenever he walks across the sand with his claws. Until he came to a rock. Is this a house for hermit crab? Turning himself around, hermit crab backed his hind legs beneath the rock. The rock would not budge. It was too heavy. So he stepped along the shore by the sea in the sand. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. If you look close, you can see his tail right here. Until he came to a rusty old tin can. Is this a house for hermit crab? When he tried to walk with the can on his back, it bumped and clunked. It was too noisy. So he stepped along the shore by the sea in the sand. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. Until he came to a piece of driftwood. Is this a house for hermit crab? Hermit crab crawled deep inside the rounded hollow at one end, and it was too dark. So he stepped along the shore by the sea in the sand. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. Until he came to a small plastic pail. Feels like a bucket. Is this a house for hermit crab? Climbing up to the rim. Oops, he fell right in. He clawed and clawed until he climbed back out. It was too deep. So he stepped along the shore by the sea in the sand. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. Until he came to a nice round hole in the sand. This is the hole. Is this a house for hermit crab? He poked his head down into the opening. A huge pair of eyes blinked back at him. Hermit crab shivered as he scurried away from the big fiddler crab peering out of his burrow. It was too crowded. So he stepped along the shore by the sea in the sand. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. I bet he was in a hurry. Until he came to some fishing net. Is this a house for hermit crab? Poking his claws into the heap, he got tangled and caught. Hermit crab wriggled and wriggled until he found his way out of the net. It had too many holes. So he stepped along the shore, by the sea and the sand. Scratch, 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 scratch. Will hermit crab ever find a house? All of a sudden, a gigantic wave tossed and tumbled pebbles and sand over hermit crab's head. He swirled and whirled with the tide and was washed back out to sea. So now he's back in the sea, in the water, in the ocean. Sleeker than a shark, the pricklepine fish darted out from its hiding place in the tall seaweed. Every spine on its back stood straight as a steeple. Mouth open wide, it headed right for hermit crab. Hermit crab raced across the ocean floor. Scratch, 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 scratch. Scurrying behind the first creature he saw. It was a sea snail, and he hoped it would hide him. But the seashell was empty. Hermit crab scrambled inside as quick as a flash and clamped his claw over the opening or the aperture of the shell. So he put his claw right in front of that, like a door. The pricklepine fish circled the snail shell 3 times, but he could not catch sight of the crab he had been chasing. He glided off in search of something else to eat. Phew, that was close, Mr. Hermit Crab. When all seemed still and quiet, Hermit Crab snuggled comfortably down into his new shell. It was not too heavy, not too noisy, not too dark, and not too deep. It was not too crowded, and it did not have too many holes. At last, Hermit Crab found a new home, and it fit just right. So that's the end of that story. And now, in this story that we just read, you saw illustrations, which are drawings or paintings of pictures. Now, in this new short story that we're going to look at, a photographer took these pictures, which means they're real pictures taken by a camera. And because I just wanted you all to get a look at what real hermit crabs look like and what they look like without their shell. So this is called Hideaway Hermits by Anna Mearns. What is it like to carry your house on your back? Ask a hermit crab. He would know. Why does a hermit crab need to borrow an empty shell? Because the back part of its body is very soft, so it tucks this part into the empty snail shell. The hermit crab twists itself into an empty snail shell and makes itself at home. Then it hauls along its handy home wherever it goes. If an enemy comes near, the crab ducks inside. Then it shuts the shell by folding its claws across the opening, or the aperture. Can you see? Hopefully y'all can see the claws right there. This hermit crab right here has grown much too tubby, which means much too big for its little shell. So it's looking at a bigger one. This one looks good. So the hermit crab pulls itself out of its little shell and then pops right into its new, bigger home. Right down here. I don't know if y'all can see these. Oh, this is where he pulls himself out of his old shell. And this is the picture of him inside of the new, bigger shell. It's the last page. Look at those eyes. So if you're near the seashore, look for a shell that has claws. There may be a hermit lurking in there. What a neat crab. But always make sure that you have your parents with you if you pick up a seashell that you think might have a crab in it, because these crabs do have claws and they will snap at you. I hope you boys and girls enjoyed. Bye.